OJ Simpson, the former American football star at the centre of the so-called trial of the century almost 3 decades ago, has died aged 76. Simpson was acquitted of murdering his former wife, Nicole Brown, and her friend, Ronald Goldman, in the 1995 trial.
He was later found responsible for his wife's death in a civil lawsuit and served 9 years in prison for armed robbery and kidnapping. Let's go straight to our North America correspondent, Carrington Clark, who's in Washington. Carrington, OJ Simpson lived the second half of his life in infamy, and this is just huge news around the world. What's being said about the life of OJ Simpson?
Yeah, OJ Simpson first rose to prominence here in the United States as a preternaturally talented athlete. He achieved greatness at the college football level, won the Heisman Trophy, and then went into the professional league in the NFL. He set records and was one of the first black athletes to be really embraced by the white community here. He gained massive endorsement deals and was even able to carve out a successful acting career. But his life took this shocking twist with the murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown, and her friend Ron Goldman. And then OJ Simpson, as the prime suspect, was involved in one of the most bizarre moments perhaps in the kind of culture of the 1990s, with this very slow moving chase in his white Ford Bronco as he was pursued by police. And that then led to his arrest and this trial of the century, which was this televised trial where he was on trial for the murder of his ex-wife and her friend Ron Goldman. We had these extraordinary moments that became memes of OJ Simpson trying on the gloves that were involved with that murder and saying that they didn't fit. And he was eventually acquitted after what was really a racially fueled defense, where the defense was claiming that he was being pursued as a black man. In the end, the jury agreed that there wasn't enough evidence to find him guilty of those murders, but he was then found liable in a civil trial that was brought by both the parents of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman, ordered to pay over $33 million US. He never actually paid those debts before he died. He was then involved in this other legal battle later in his life, where he was eventually convicted of both the kidnapping and robbery of a memorabilia dealer in Las Vegas, sentenced in that case to 33 years, although only served 9. And so the last few years of his life really were on the sidelines of mainstream society. The polling suggests that the majority of Americans do believe he was responsible for the deaths of his ex-wife and Ron Goldman, but this was a polarizing moment in American history and was clearly on racial dividing lines. And that particular trial is seen by many as being the precursor to much of the reality TV that we've seen in legal cases, but also some of the other high-profile legal cases that followed.
Yeah, it certainly was an extraordinary saga watched by people around the world. And Carrington, just tell us what's the reaction to his death there in the United States? What's being said?
Yeah, as you can understand, this is such a contentious issue here in America, and it's so hard to describe his life and want to recognise the fact that he was found not guilty in the criminal trial regarding these 2 deaths. He wasn't convicted of the murders, and yet many people do hold him responsible. And obviously then we have the complication of this civil trial. We have heard from Ron Goldman's father, who was the man who really led the public charge against OJ Simpson. After he was acquitted, they wanted justice for their son. He today has said that this has obviously brought up horrible memories and a reminder that they have how long it has been since they lost their son. But as you can again imagine, despite the fact that he was this sporting superstar, a Hall of Famer in the NFL, you're not seeing what you might expect in other circumstances, with people coming out with fond memories or recognition of his place in the sporting history of America or the cultural history of America. So it is a complicated legacy for this man, who had obviously such great success in the early part of his life, but very much tarnished by these violent incidences that occurred later in his life, and then finally that conviction for robbery and kidnapping, which finally saw him jailed.